Tonight, a new year for new media. Jeffery Brown looks at how the trends of 2006 may play in 2007.
Good evening.
Yes, the big stars of what we can call old media were in the spotlight in 2006, notably when Charles Gibson and Katie Couric traded mornings for evenings.
Tonight, for many Americans today.
But another old media mainstay, Time magazine, passed over the anchors and other newsmakers and instead selected as its person of the year, you.
You are.
That's you, the viewer, reader, listener, and more, creator of news content. The media shift is spreading across the internet on decidedly new media websites like YouTube, which was purchased in October by the dominant search engine Google for $1.6 billion. All those eyes on the internet have come at the expense of traditional news sources and forced numerous changes. NBC announced a plan to save $750 million with the elimination of 700 jobs, the merger of its news operations,
NBC's Michelle Kaczynski is on
and an increased focus on digital content. The nation's second largest newspaper chain, Knight Ridder, ceased to exist after selling its 32 papers to a smaller competitor, the McClatchy Company, in a $4.5 billion deal. And shrinking circulation led to staff cuts at many prominent papers. At the Los Angeles Times, the publisher and editor were forced out when they refused to impose hundreds of corporate-mandated layoffs. The LA Times and its parent, the Tribune Company, are also thought to be on the auction block.
And I really do believe, from the bottom of my heart, that the next great era of Philadelphia journalism begins today, right here in this room.
In Philadelphia, businessman Brian Tierney led a group of investors in buying the town's 2 papers from McClatchy, in what may be a growing trend toward a return to local ownership. Rumors of a potential takeover by local investors also hit the Boston Globe. For old and new institutions alike, the action is increasingly moving online. USA Today, with the nation's largest circulation, combined its print and online newsrooms. And it, like other organizations, is incorporating more elements of reader-generated, so-called citizen journalism. A recent event in Los Angeles showed the growing power of non-professional journalists in uncovering news. A video of a UCLA student being tasered or stun-gunned by campus police was taken with a camera phone by a bystander. It spread quickly across YouTube and other online sites.
This fellow here over here with the yellow shirt, Macaca, or whatever his name is.
Some of the more memorable video moments of the recent political campaign also played out in cyberspace. Chief among them, Virginia Senator George Allen's Macaca gaffe. Traditional media continued to expand their own online video presence. CBS News, for example, began simulcasting the evening news online, and ABC began posting original 15-minute news broadcasts to its website in mid-afternoon. According to a report released by the Census Bureau, for the first time, Americans spend more time surfing the internet than reading newspapers. And a Pew Research Center study found that nearly 1 in 3 Americans regularly gets news online, compared to just 1 in 50 10 years ago.
And we look at some of these developments now with Mark Jurkowitz, Associate Director of the Project for Excellence in Journalism and a former media critic for the Boston Globe and the Boston Phoenix. Mary Hodder, founder and CEO of Dabble.com, a video search and social community website, and previously a researcher at the University of California, Berkeley School of Information, looking at digital media. Adam Clayton Powell III, Director of the Integrated Media Systems Center at the University of Southern California, and a former news executive at NPR and CBS, and Nicholas Lemann, Dean of the Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism and a staff writer on the media for the New Yorker magazine. Welcome to all of you. Nick Lemann, starting with you, there you are at a leading journalism school, no doubt thinking and talking about the future of the news media. To what extent does that conversation focus on the internet and a shift in the business?
It's to a huge extent. I mean, it's this year particularly, it's been just about all we talk about. Just this morning we sent out invitations to our annual faculty retreat after the holiday break, and that will be 100% devoted to the question of how we do more internet in our curriculum. So it's very much top of mind for us.
Adam Powell, is it happening? To what extent do you see it happening, this shift?
The shift is huge, and it's going in a direction which I don't think we can see yet. By the end of next year, we're going to be seeing some innovations which are going to be striking, almost science fiction. But old media aren't
science fiction.
Yes, 3D visualizations, the ability to do micro-local news down to your block and your neighborhood. But old media aren't going away. We still have radio, we still have AM radio, we still have shortwave radio. We still have newspapers, we still have magazines. Life, Look, and Collier's went away, but they're replaced by even more magazines. So it simply becomes more crowded, more fragmented, but still with innovation.
Mark Jurkowitz, what do you see? Is it possible to think of a balance of power shift?
Well, the power is shifting, but it hasn't shifted yet completely to new media. I mean, in a year when YouTube sells for $1.6 billion, we know where a lot of the energy in the media are going. But as Adam points out, the old media are not going anywhere. The fight for the future of some of America's biggest newspapers between public companies and potentially private owners still shows they are valuable properties. The fact that the major networks and CBS gambled on a new evening news anchor for a format that is believed to be sort of heading toward extinction means we are in an evolutionary phase, not a revolutionary phase right now.
Mary Hodder, what do you think? Evolutionary or revolutionary? How do you describe it?
Well, I guess coming from the new media side, you know, what we're seeing is enormous. I know that old media, or what I would call legacy media, is not going away. Bloggers always rely on legacy media sources, and I think this is true as well for video. You know, much of what's uploaded to hosting sites like YouTube is traditional media. And but the really, really big shift, the hugeness that I see, is the shift in control. It's users programming for others what's interesting. And, you know, you're taking it away from the Brandon Tarkentoffs, the legacy media companies in the past would tell us what was going to be on the, I don't know, Sunday night lineup, but these days it's users saying, you know, these 5 minutes out of Comedy Central's, you know, show is the best thing, and everybody watches that.
Mary, what are the main changes that you see in how people, especially young people, want to get their news, or where they look to get their news?
Well, I think part of it is that they're going to shows like the Comedy Central lineup. You know, it's the Daily Show and all of that, and we've all heard this before, so that's nothing new. But what people are doing, especially younger folks, is they're grabbing bits of that news from television and they're throwing it up online and they're sharing it with each other. So that's a huge shift. They're essentially doing the programming that traditional media used to do. The other thing is that they're making their own bits of news. I mean, you look at what happened at UCLA recently, the tasering incident, which everybody saw. Well, what they were watching was other students' cell phones having shot what, you know, the incident was and throwing that up online. That's enormous. So there's content coming from both places, but I think the real shift is control. Who gets to decide what we watch has gone away. I'm deciding, my friends are deciding, other folks on the internet are deciding, and that sort of yanks the rug out from underneath legacy media in a way that we've never seen before.